All right, this is actually the biggest revelation from the JOANN lawsuit. Are you ready to go down the rabbit hole with me? Welcome to Sewing Report Live. I'm Jen. I cover news and I do commentary on what is going on in the world of sewing and crafts. This is going to be kind of a long and twisty video. There's no other way to do this. I actually discovered this information while I was researching the vendor's lawsuit against the JOANN executives, and I happened to catch this. This is directly related to the lawsuit, but it's a kind of a completely different angle. We're going to look at a lot of different pieces of information, and I'm going to let you connect them and make these conclusions for yourself. Just a quick disclaimer, I am not an attorney. This is not official legal analysis. These videos are also unscripted, and this one's going to be a little bit edited. I talk a lot, so if that's not your thing, I understand. But this channel may not be for you because that is what I do here. Are you ready? Are you ready? And I'm actually surprised I haven't really seen this being discussed anywhere because I was like, oh, has anyone else noticed this? Like, what is going on? If you watched my last few videos, I've been digging into the lawsuit, the civil lawsuit filed on behalf of several of JOANN's vendors against multiple JOANN executives. They're accusing these executives of fraudulent misrepresentation, basically that they were misled to think that the company's financials and situation was much better than it was. Now, if you remember from the previous videos, I have specifically been highlighting the former JOANN Chief Merchandising Officer, Robert Will. I'll refer to him as Rob Will from here on out. And Rob was with JOANN's for quite a few years, and he worked in the merchandising department, so he had very close relationships, allegedly, with all of the vendors. I'm just warning you in advance. This is kind of a trippy video. Well, when I was looking at the contact information for all of the defendants, I noticed something very interesting about Rob Will. This is the court summons for the lawsuit, so they're notifying these defendants. They have been named individually in the lawsuit. So here is Robert Will. Do you notice something about the contact information here? Because I saw that and I was like, huh. So Robert Will, care of SVP Worldwide, and then it's got the address for the company. Now, his contact information, this is not a home address, this is a business. SVP Worldwide, what do you know? It is the company that has the three iconic brands, Singer, Husqvarna Viking, and Pfaff. So they're in Nashville, Tennessee. SVP Worldwide did a lot of business with JOANN because JOANN carried Singer and they had those little Husqvarna Viking sewing centers within the stores. SVP Worldwide was very closely tied to JOANN. They also happen to be one of the largest creditors that is owed a lot of money by JOANN in this second Chapter 11 bankruptcy case. I was like, all right, so is Rob Will working for SVP Worldwide? So I did a quick, Google. I was like, huh. So he's listing his contact information as SVP Worldwide. And I happened to come across a LinkedIn profile. That is that professional networking social media platform. And I found a profile that I'm fairly confident it is him. Now, there is a small chance it could be, an impersonator, but I don't think it is because all of the other information I've been able to find really matches up with this data. On the Rob Will LinkedIn profile, it has his experience being with JOANN from September of 2016 to February of 2025. So the profile ends his tenure at JOANN in the middle of this bankruptcy. So JOANN filed for the second Chapter 11 bankruptcy in January. Now, these timelines are pretty important, so just put a pin in certain things. According to this LinkedIn profile, Rob Will left JOANN as the Chief Merchandising Officer and Executive Sponsor of e-commerce in February 2025. And then the next job is Chief Executive Officer, yes, CEO. So I would argue a better job at SVP Worldwide starting in February 2025. So in the middle, right after JOANN filed for the bankruptcy for the second time, it appears that Rob Will kind of left as the ship was sinking and went to one of JOANN's probably biggest business partners, and also a company that is currently a major creditor in this bankruptcy case. I'm fairly confident that this LinkedIn profile is the actual Rob Will. But I was also trying to get some other confirmation, because when I just saw the LinkedIn profile, I was not ready to do a video or really, come out publicly with this information. But everything else I found in connection to Rob Will seems to track. So we are going to go over some other things. We're going to put the dots together. All right. The first thing I did was I decided to try to look to see if SVP Worldwide had put out any sort of a press release on Rob joining the company. I was like, okay, so a lot of companies, corporations, it's usually standard where they'll announce big hires like that, especially the chief executive officer, the CEO. There's jack shit on the SVP Worldwide website, any of their socials. In fact, they don't seem to have updated any of their social media in over a year. I did find they at one point had a leadership management team page, and it appears they may have scrubbed it. I want to ask why. When was there, so it says the senior leadership team of SVP Worldwide possesses the exceptional vision, expertise, blah, blah, blah. So why doesn't SVP Worldwide currently have an updated list of who's in charge at this company? I did find that a little strange. The other thing I noticed is that if you go to their news page, the latest news they have is from October 2023. So that's well over a year of zero media releases, news releases. I've not been able to find anything really concrete that's up to date online anywhere. So why can't I find any confirmation that Rob Will has joined SVP Worldwide? Now, the two things, again, I think connected with the LinkedIn profile, plus the fact that SVP Worldwide is his actual contact information on a lawsuit, I think that's pretty good indication. In my own roundabout way, I was also able to get further validation that this is correct. Now, I'm not saying it's 100%, but I'm going to show you all of the evidence I have that Rob Will is the current Rob Will, yes, the guy who is a defendant in the civil lawsuit against the JOANN executives, and in my opinion, seems to be the main character in all of the examples and anecdotes from the lawsuit, appears to be now in charge of arguably the world's biggest sewing machine company. Yeah. Oh, there's more. When I was trying to research this, I was doing all these searches who's the CEO. Now, SVP Worldwide is not a publicly traded company, so they don't have to make public any annual reports or financial statements. I guess they don't have to let us know who is in charge, who's on the leadership team of this company, who's the CEO, who is actually running this business. Why don't they have any sort of team listed on the website? I also found out, which I'm not super surprised, but SVP Worldwide is owned by a private equity group. I know everybody's shocked. So SVP Worldwide was acquired by Platinum Equity in 2021 from another company. So it looks like before that they were even owned by a different private equity company called Ares. And now they are owned by Platinum Equity. Yes, I know that sounds very, very high end here. So here is their announcement that they completed the acquisition of SVP Singer Holdings and its wholly owned subsidiaries, SVP Worldwide, the world's largest consumer sewing machine company, which, by the way, I don't believe Brother is owned by a private equity company, so I guess that might be a plus. SVP Worldwide accounts for more than 1 out of 3 consumer sewing machines sold worldwide through 3 iconic brands, Singer, Viking, and Pfaff. The company's products are sold across a network of sewing machine dealers, mass retailers, specialty shops, online retailers, distributors, and the company's 180 internally operated retail stores. We're going to look at some names here. Yes, there's more, guys. There is a lot more. At the time in 2021, the CEO of SVP Worldwide was Carl Martin Lindahl. And the executive chairman, he's going to come up later, was Stan Rosenzweig. So they both joined the company in 2018. Now, both of these guys are gone. They are no longer with SVP Worldwide. They did switch locations, so I found another press release about how they kind of opened up like some new flashy headquarters in Tennessee. So here's another article I found from the Nashville Chamber of Commerce. SVP Worldwide opens new global headquarters in Nashville. Now, SVP Worldwide has not been very transparent on the leadership of this company. But at the time, so this press release, I believe, came out about a year ago in 2024. So in 2021, the CEO of SVP was Carl Martin Lindahl. By 2024, so they seem to have a revolving door of leadership at SVP. They've had at least 3 CEOs in the past 5 years. 3 CEOs in 5 years. So this article cites the CEO last year as being Jason Forcier. I'm going to guess it's Forcier. So he, as of last year, he was still with SVP Worldwide. I also decided, and also here's a couple other articles. This is another article with the previous CEO, Carl Martin Lindahl. And he was the one who oversaw the acquisition of SVP Worldwide by Platinum Equity. And then here's an article announcing that he left and joined a different company. So clearly Carl has no association currently with SVP Worldwide. Here's an announcement from 2022. So it appears that in 2022, Carl left and then Jason Forcier joined in 2022. Jason did not last long. Jason, I also found his LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure it's his LinkedIn. He left for a different job in early this year. So we're going to get into that too. So this press release announced that Carl left in 2022 and joined an aftermarket truck parts and accessories company called Real Truck Inc. So Carl, see ya Carl. Carl is no longer with SVP Worldwide. I was like, hey, maybe I can try to find some information in the JOANN bankruptcy documents to see who the CEO is at SVP Worldwide. So I actually did find the initial Chapter 11 filing was done in January of 2025, and it listed SVP Worldwide as one of the top 30 creditors. And in that documentation, so this was just a few months ago, the CEO in January 2025 was still listed as Jason Forcier. So that's the thing. All of those timelines match up. That if Jason left in February of 2025, which it appears he did, then that timeline matches that Rob would have joined the company at the time of Jason's exit. So I did find Jason's LinkedIn as well. I know, by the way, I'm just not a fan of, I hate LinkedIn for whatever reason. I just don't like it. I just think I think it's kind of lame at this point, but whatever. So I did find Jason's LinkedIn profile. So it has him as the chief executive officer from December 2022 to August 2024. And then it seems like they didn't really have a full-time CEO between, although he was listed on the documentation, but then it has him as being executive chairman part-time between September 2024 and January 2025. And then he left. He was kind of straddling 2 companies. He was working for both SVP Worldwide and another company called Neos Partners. And then it has him being there currently at Neos Partners as some sort of operating partner and a senior advisor at Neos Partners. And his own LinkedIn has him leaving SVP Worldwide in January 2025. And Rob Will's LinkedIn has him joining SVP in February 2025. So all of those timelines really match. So that is what really convinces me that information is accurate. Again, for legal reasons, I'm going to say that's not 1,000% confirmed, but I do feel comfortable enough at this point of reporting this because everything matches up. But I was also able to find a different way of confirming this, and I do feel fairly comfortable that this information is accurate. I guess my question is, all right, one, if this all is true, I think the optics are a little strange, I guess, especially since this guy, Rob Will, was on the Jo-Ann sinking ship, and then he apparently has joined the SVP Worldwide team as the CEO. I would say that's probably a better job. A guy that you could say has some responsibility and culpability for Jo-Ann's bankruptcy and failure is now at the world's largest sewing machine company. And he's also now named and accused in a civil lawsuit surrounding this bankruptcy. It starts to make sense maybe why SVP Worldwide didn't really want to publicize this. Maybe the optics are a little weird. Maybe that would explain why, they didn't really make an announcement. Now, look, I'm not going to take at face value what some random website says, but when I was looking up to see if there had been any announcements in the corporate world, like something on PR Newswire or anything, the only thing that came up was this Zoom info site, and it lists under the scoops, so it says like see all scoops, so like most recent scoops, it does have a little blurb. It says SVP Worldwide has announced that Rob Will has joined the organization as chief executive officer. But when I was trying to find like an article or a press release, like nothing comes up. So I don't know, like, did things get scrubbed from the internet? I have no idea. They're really not publicizing who is on the leadership team of this company. I'm like, what? So I do find all of this very strange, to say the least. I find this really weird. But then when I was thinking back on covering all of the Jo-Ann corporate shuffles and shakeups within the organization, I remembered a little something. Let's pull this up. Do y'all remember this? Because I covered this in a previous live stream. Jo-Ann announces industry veteran as executive chairman of the board. Now, look who it is. In August of 2024, this was in between the first and the second bankruptcies, Jo-Ann brought on Stan Rosenzweig as executive chairman on the board, and he came directly to Jo-Ann from SVP Worldwide. Now, all these dots are starting to connect. Rob Will was with Jo-Ann for a long time as the chief merchandising officer. As evidenced from the lawsuit filing, he had pretty close contact with all of the vendors that I imagine had to include SVP Worldwide, since they provided all the Singer sewing machines and those Husqvarna Viking sewing centers within the stores. But Stan didn't last he was only in this role as executive chairman of the board for like a few months, and then he pieced out for whatever reason. But I do just find it interesting that Stan from SVP Worldwide joins Jo-Ann as executive chairman on the board. And then in the middle, right after Jo-Ann filed for the second bankruptcy, Rob Will jumps ship, according to a LinkedIn profile, plus his own contact information on this lawsuit, and now appears to be the CEO of SVP Worldwide. I just find all of these dots to be pretty fascinating. I got some questions. So that, to me, is actually the biggest bombshell from the Jo-Ann lawsuit. And yeah, everything lines up from when Carl Martin Lindahl left Jo-Ann, Jason Forcier joined, left, and then all of those timelines match up. Now, if you Google who's the current CEO of SVP Worldwide, it'll come up as like Carl or Jason, but that seems to be outdated information, because clearly both of those men have left and joined different companies. They're no longer there. I'm pretty sure this is the case. I'm just leaving this out there, but it does appear that former Jo-Ann executive and chief merchandising officer Rob Will is now the current CEO of SVP Worldwide, sewing machine giant. And I just got to say, I got some questions. I think the optics of this are a little bizarre, to say the least. And I'm just noticing SVP Worldwide seems to be keeping a pretty tight lid on things. So, yeah. What does everybody think? Let me know down below in the comments. If you found this video interesting, hit the like button, subscribe to Sewing Report Live. Also, if you are going to leave a comment, just make sure to follow the community rules. But, I've been spending the last few days researching this whole angle. He was the debtor in this whole bankruptcy situation. And now, if all of these things add up and this information is accurate, that means Rob Will is now representing one of Jo-Ann's biggest creditors Is that weird? Is that a little weird? I got some questions here. So that's all for now, but that is the latest update from the Jo-Ann bankruptcy situation and now ex Jo-Ann executive, Rob Will. I've spent like a few days on this and I'm still going down the rabbit hole. But if you've made it this far, I appreciate it. Subscribe if you want to stay updated to this whole saga. I thought it would be over, but it continues to reel me back in. Anyways, I'm Jen with So On Report Live. I'll see you again in the next one.